Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. All the news, blah, 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 blah. I'm your host, Lore Dude, the lore runner. I like to lore stuff up, every now and again. So, how are things going? I got a couple of quick news tidbits, just, my usual little intro spiel. So, anybody out there, I'll actually save that one. Pillars of Eternity 2 is going to have its beta soon for testing it out, actually supposedly within a couple of weeks as of now, but no concrete deadline on that one, so shrug for anybody interested in that. I admit I'm kind of a weird mind on that, as I think I made clear both while streaming it the first and second time, and while doing my rumination. Pillars of Eternity was really well written, and had some great plot stuff, some great setting stuff, and it was a game I had to cheat to actually enjoy playing because I actively disliked the combat. So we'll talk about that. What else we got here? Incredibles 2 was announced pretty recently, actually, and the teaser went live yesterday. I don't really have much to share about that because the teaser didn't really showcase anything, at all, really, if you were paying attention. In fact, the teaser was actually confusing. For those of you who haven't seen it, I'll just explain this super quick here. The idea is that Baby Jack, the baby with lots of superpowers in the last film, is like... And then it cuts to Mr. Incredible, I can't remember his name, and he's holding up the baby, and he's like, "You have powers!" And he's saying this in, this sort of pleased yet shocked tone, which is really confusing because they knew he had powers. He actually demonstrated them for them nice and clearly in the last film. So, yeah. I'm not sure. Bob. His name is Bob. How apropos. I couldn't remember the name of a guy named Bob. Either way, I'm looking forward to it. It's a Pixar film, and I don't think there's ever really been a Pixar film I haven't enjoyed. I'm not sure about that. I'd have to think about that. Also, so now I'm going to ask you guys a question. How many of you guys out there have ever played Titan Quest? It's a Diablo clone, but a reasonable one. I'd say one of the better Diablo clones that came out. Anyone? So, just to get to the point, Titan Quest is actually having a new DLC coming out soon. For those of you who don't remember, Titan Quest came out about 10 years ago at this point. Oh, God! Titan Quest is very filled with fear. Thank you as ever, Wilson. I very much appreciate those Twitch Prime subs. Thank you. What else we got? Is that it for... Oh, right. I got some news for you guys that you may or may not care about, so check this out. You remember how I've talked about how ads in general and advertising and marketing is a diamond industry? Lorium's plug. So, one of the biggest things I always bring up when it comes to that, because it makes my point so clearly and so demonstrably, is bus ads. Because bus ads are really, really expensive and not particularly effective, at least in the opinion of me and everyone I know. I've actually talked to a lot of people about this, not just friends and family. So, there's a bus ad that's pretty common around here. And I think I've mentioned this to some of my viewers before. I've been making a point of trying to look at it and remember what it is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's pink. And it's this big pink thing, okay? So recently, I was in the car with Sis. This is actually a couple weeks ago now. I just forgot to mention it last week. We were in the car, and we were driving somewhere, and I brought this up to her again. I was like, so have you recognated, have you remembered any bus ads that you've seen? And she's like, well, there's this big pink one. And I'm like, yeah, I know the pink one, but what is it? And by total happenstance, just a few blocks down, there was one of the buses with the big pink ad, and we're like, aha! We'll finally be able to tell what the pink ad is. So we looked at the pink ad, and... and that's what it was an ad of. Thank you, Progue. as ever and always, thank you very much for those Twitch Prime subs. I didn't time that. I swear to God, I didn't time that. It was an ad for... We don't know. No, I'm serious. The ad is pink. Call this number. That's it. We have no idea what they're advertising. It's just... Maybe there's like a little small part of it that we can see, that we didn't see, I should say, that explains what they're advertising, but... Huh? So, yeah, Diamond Industry. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's the effectiveness of bus ads. I have no idea what the number was. I didn't even bother to remember that. Why would I? 55555. Because I'm in not good financial situation, Berserkiru, and at this point I'm kind of plateauing when it comes to patrons because I make trout-flavored yogurt, and so Twitch Prime subs are pretty much the only way my business can grow at the moment, and that's helping me to be able to, for example, take care of my sister for the next couple of months through her financial straits, and hopefully if I get more Twitch Prime subs or my plateau stops, I'll be able to actually afford to live on my own. Holy crap, which I can't do right now. It'd be nice to have my own studio and everything rather than just doing this in my bedroom. But what are you going to do? So anyways, so that's all my random, generic news. How's the audio volume? I'm testing something with the audio volume today. Speaking of which, we have a voot. Please, 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 please voot. This is actually really important. I have already tweeted it. I am going to post it in chat right now. There you go. Non-Prime subs are important, but I never ask for them because Twitch takes 50% of those. So I would always prefer Patreon, which takes 15%, than Twitch, which takes 50%. Make sense? Now, I know your situation, Valvedrix, but that's why I continuously emphasize that point, Prime. That's why I keep emphasizing, I'm not asking people for Twitch subs. If you want to support me, that's awesome. Please do it on Patreon. I don't want regular Twitch subs unless you have a specific situation and no other method of doing so, like you, Valvedrix. All right. So, we have only 3 topics today, but all 3 are actually connected. They're all the same thing. Yes, Patreon. I mean, technically, bits are actually the most % I get, but I don't ask anybody for that because that's ridiculous. And so, yeah, Patreon is generally my preferred method. It's okay, Hazardous. I understand. It's not like I don't understand having financial straits. You can ask, well, Eric or Gary both could tell you about how they basically paid for my food for a long time while I was so destitute I couldn't afford food. So, it's not like I don't get it. It's actually part of why I have the... It's part of why I have the immune system issues I do to this day. Thank you, Darth Tyrant, very much. You did not have to do that. I really... Thank you very much for that donation. To explain why I'm so about bits, I get 100% of the bits. Like, he just donated 5,000 bits. That's $50, nothing else, just $50 straight, no percent taken off to me. The way that works is he had to pay more than $50 to get those bits. In other words, Patreon, Twitch, PayPal, that all takes a cut of it, so I get less from that cut. The bits instead makes the person who is buying the bits pay for that cut. Make sense? That's why I don't really try to plug the bits too much, because obviously it's more expensive for you. So that's why I was just kind of mentioning that in brief there. Anyways, so we have 3 topics today, and they're all related. And do make sure you vote. We're going to keep the music on today. I've actually got it on a new playlist that I've been designing just for Loreweek, so we're going to You can see what songs are going through here. All of these are variant songs, too, so they should be safe for copy wrong. Although I gotta be ready to skip music, so I'm gonna put that over there just in case. That's true, Gnarlix. That's true. I'm not gonna answer that question, Tiz. I played the 5th. I don't know, King Bubble. I don't know. All right. Let's talk about the Rampage movie that's coming out. Now, don't worry. This is part of an overarching topic, I swear. So they're making a Rampage movie. Quick question. How many of you know what Rampage is? Honest question. Honest question. No shame in it. You've never heard of Rampage? Give me a second. Give me just a second. This is Rampage. Whoops, it's the wrong size for some reason. No. Hang on a second. No, that's the right size. Never mind. We're good. Okay. This is Rampage. They're making a movie out of this, okay? You ready for this? I'm going to pause the music for just a second. Yeah, we'll play George. Damn it, Wilson. I said... I should have played this the whole way up. I'm stupid. I haven't actually played this game in a long time. Me and Dad actually sat down once and played this entire game front to back. There's a lot of stages in this game. Like a silly amount of stages. It's like 100-something. They're all this. There's no real variety to them. Not really. Now, in the arcade Rampage, there's 3 characters, not 2. Giant monkey, you know, King Kong, giant lizard, Godzilla over there, and giant wolf man. So that's it. That's Rampage. You've seen all you need to see. That is the game, right there. They're making a movie out of that. They're making a movie out of that. Thank you, Wilson. So anyways, and it's a Dwayne Johnson movie. Now, you might be like, why is this even significant? Well, first of all, as I've said before, and I've said this, and I'll say this again, there's really nothing that surprises me anymore in movies. There just isn't. They made a movie about Battleship. My opinion has not changed since then. Battleship peaked. Like, that was the plateau for ridiculous things to make a movie out of. They made a movie out of Battleship. All of this is nothing compared to that. So, that's not why I'm really bringing this up. I'm bringing this up because it's a video game movie, which will probably be bad. Yeah, they made a movie about emojis. Again, we've already peaked here, guys. This isn't news. But the relevant part, and this is kind of the segue part here, is they're making a Mario movie. Another one, I should clarify. Now, let me go ahead and say something that's a little unpopular here. I actually kind of liked the first Mario movie. It was not a good film. No. But it was a film that I found... funny to watch, if that makes any sense, you know, with a few exceptions. So my first thought is, okay, you know, sure. However, this one's going to be a fully CGI movie, which at first glance you'd be like, oh, that's great. Except it's being done by the guys who do the Minions series. Now, I want to stress that I mean no offense to anyone at all who enjoys the Minions, who enjoyed Despicable Me 2, who enjoyed the Pet movie. I can't remember what it was called right now. But I actually have seen all of those movies, and I actively despised them. They were not funny, and they were kind of tedious, and the overall presentation of it was just slapstick gag, slapstick gag, slapstick gag, slapstick gag, slapstick gag, slapstick gag. Hang on, let's talk for a second. Slapstick gag, slapstick gag. And you might be wondering, why did I see all these? Because I have a niece. But, so, now, you notice I specifically didn't mention Despicable Me 1. That's because I actually liked Despicable Me 1. That was actually a decent movie. I liked that. It was Despicable Me 2 when they started doing the slapstick kind of approach to the comedy. And the minion thing. And just, you know, it's... So, that doesn't exactly fill me with thoughts of, yay! Yeah, Luigi's caught on fire. Oh, isn't that funny? Now, it would be nice if this was a good film. But I know they did, Zorn. I know they did. It's why they pushed in that direction. In fact, I actually looked into this a few months ago at this point, actually. There was a discussion from some of the creators of the Minion stuff that they were trying for more of a deconstruction of supervillain concepts and topics with Despicable Me 1, but all of the feedback they got from the studio was, the Minions are great, do more of that. And the Minions sell like crazy. In fact, for a bit there, my niece actually had...
Your dedication will be rewarded.
You're killing Darth Tyrant here, man. Come on. Thank you, King Bubble. I gotta actually pull that up now. The money says they're right. Money says they're right. Just like the Transformers movies are fantastic. Thank you, King Bubble. I do appreciate it. Would you like to put that towards anything? We got a bunch of incentives right now. There's the buy Ultra Pokemon Sun and Moon for the Pokemon Chill Run thing. And then there's the lore runs, which we have active right now. I'll pull up the list really quick. Anyways, so long story short, I will probably see the Mario movie because I have to, because I need to report on it at this point. But I have absolutely no belief that it'll be any good. You know? I'd like it to be. I would like a good Mario movie. But the odds of it being good are pretty low. Now, I've asked this question before, and I want to talk about this briefly. Can we name truly good video game movies? And I don't mean Wreck-It Ralph, because what I mean by a video game movie... You got it, King Bubble. Thank you again. I'll put it right here. There we go. Updated. I don't mean a movie that happens to be about video games, because there's actually a lot of those, and some of them are kind of decent. Again, Wreck-It Ralph was actually pretty good. No, I mean a video game adapted to a movie. That's a video game movie, okay? Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, you know, the Warcraft movie, Spirits Within, the first Mario movie we're just talking about, Prince of Persia, there was Assassin's Creed last year, you know, this kind of thing. Now, is there such a thing as a genuinely good video game movie? Now, I would argue yes, but I would say there's only one, my opinion. I would, however, say that there's several video game movies that are enjoyable. So, I enjoyed Mortal Kombat 1. I will not call it good, but I did enjoy it. I saw that one in the theaters with my mom, even. So I enjoyed Mortal Kombat 1. Street Fighter, Raul Julia. That sold. Like, Street Fighter movie was actually pretty blah, except for Raul Julia, in my opinion. Yes, I'm about to say Warcraft, but I already talked about that. I'm not going to repeat my points there. Yeah, Sunday popcorn movie. That's exactly right. There's been some decent Sunday popcorn video game movies. I mentioned Mario, like I said, it's kind of a, it's fun to laugh at kind of a thing. I know there's others. I'm having trouble thinking of any off the top of my head. Prince of Persia. And I'm not counting like the animated straight-to-TV stuff. That doesn't count for this purposes. Because a video game movie, again, to continue the definition, is something that is being pushed out onto theaters as part of a mainstream effort, a Hollywood-produced, movie industry, video game-based film. Tomb Raider, I didn't enjoy Tomb Raider, but I'm not a fan of the series, so I'm probably not the person to really talk about on that one. By the way, I know the Warcraft movie had some serious flaws. I actually talked about those while I was talking about it during the discussion we had about that, because, oh my god, the humans were so boring, except for Khadgar. Khadgar was cool. But all the humans were just boring and badly acted, and just, what are you doing on the screen? Why are you here? The orcs were awesome. It was so weird. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. That's true. We also had the Resident Evil films. You know what? I will go ahead and say that I enjoyed the first Resident Evil film, because I did. I'm not even a Resident Evil fan. We've talked about this before. I'm not, but I did like the first Resident Evil film. The second film I saw in theaters. The third film I saw at home. Actually, King Bilbo, I'm kind of building up to a similar point. Warcraft movie was successful. Don't believe the misreporting hype. They actually made a lot of money on the Warcraft film, and they are working on a second Warcraft film already. And yeah, Pixels isn't a video game film as we're discussing here. Pixels is a game based on video gaming. Like, here's an example some of you might know. The Wizard. The Wizard was a game based around video games. So we got The Wizard, we got Pixels, we got Wreck-It Ralph. These are a separate category of film. Pixels, I already said that. There's another one. I'm trying to remember what it is. There's also technically Ready Player One, which is coming out next year. Actually looks pretty good. But then again, it's Steven Spielberg, and I'm sorry, but Steven Spielberg is the movie guy for a frickin' reason. So, he gets a little sappy sometimes, but he is a great director. Hi, Roximus. Last Starfighter, that's another good example of this separate category of a film about video games. But I'm building up to a point here. I am actually legitimately building up to a point here. And that point is licensing. See, let's actually discuss this, if you don't mind, if you take a moment here. Yeah, Tron would be another one. That's a good example. I liked Tron. Tron 2... I do wish they had made Tron 3. Oh yeah, Doom. That's another good one for an actual video game adaptation. We should just call them video game adaptation films, because that's a lot more clear about what we're talking about. But anyways, I'm getting off topic. So let's talk about licensing. No, not copy wrong. This is actually still related to this. I know, right, Huthor? Hey, Marley. Why is it that video game adaptation films are bad? I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. What do you guys think in answer to that question? I've kind of already given away part of my topic here. I mean, almost every video game adaptation film we have discussed now is enjoyable, but hard to really hard to really say is good. Hi, Chris. I'm seeing some good answers in chat over there. Lots of good answers, actually. Funny fact, I usually agree with the general mentality that the book is better than the film, except for Jurassic Park. It's like the one big exception. I think the Jurassic Park film is better in literally every way than the Jurassic Park book. Just thought I'd point that out. It's not related to this topic, I just point that out. Well, the Assassin's Creed movie was canon. This has been spoiled for me. And the Assassin's Creed movie will actually be relevant in Assassin's Creed Origins, which we'll be playing next Friday. Yeah, really. How's that for weird? So, you know what? I agree. Godfather is a good example of a movie where that's better than the film. Good one. Good example. It's not a great book, Max Time. I mean, it's not a bad book. I've actually read the Jurassic Park book like 3 or 4 times. I even did a report on it back in school. But anyways, so yes, we've got lots of great answers here, you know. You have to truncate the story. It's a completely different type of medium. It's a passive thing rather than an interactive thing. The people involved don't actually do any work in figuring out what the game is about, even just thematically, you know? Like, if you don't want to do a one... I've never been the kind of person who insists on a one-to-one conversion. I've talked about this many times when it comes to comic book movies. I don't care if you adapt it perfectly from the comics. I care if you do a good job of adapting it. But they don't do a good job adapting it usually. They look at it and they say, okay, clonk, you know, and so forth and so on. But related to my topic, there is a very big reason why video game movies tend to not be good, and that reason is the word licensing. Every reason that you guys just gave, well, actually I didn't read all of them, I was a little distracted there, but almost every example you just gave, since I didn't read all of them, everyone I read was an accurate reason why these kind of things tend to be enjoyable but kind of bad movies. Anyone ever see the Double Dragon movie? How about the Chun-Li movie? Point being, licensing is the kind of thing that's horrible, and the more I think about it, the more I think it should probably be completely restructured as a concept. And I mean that with total sincerity. Void Yoshi, he's still over there, Tesla. He's still in the other room. Yeah, I saw Double Dragon and Chun-Li. Anyways, Dungeons and Dragons, that's another one. What about, I wasn't even going to talk about all the Yui Bowl films. I mean, Jesus Christ. If you don't understand what I'm saying, let me just lay this out a little bit quickly here. Licensing is expensive. And licensing is... Okay, let me explain what I mean. Let's take another step back. I'm a film guy. I'm a film group. I'm a director, I'm a writer, I'm a studio, okay? I've been smashed into one person. I'm now this horrible abomination amalgamate thing, okay? Don't get distracted by that visual image. Now, I want you to imagine that either the writer, the director, or the studio, or some combination thereof, are looking at the idea of making a Seiken Densetsu 3 movie. It's the song that's playing right now, okay? I want to make a Secret of Mana film, for whatever reason. So what I have to do is I have to go over, I'll talk about that later, Hazardous. I have to go to Square Enix, who owns the rights to this, and say, I'd like to make a film about Seiken Densetsu 3. And they say, okay, money. Now, I want to make this clear because this is the important part. Any film is a fairly bloated industry. In fact, the film industry in general, I've talked about this before, has a little bit of an artificial barrier to entry, purely financially. And they do that on purpose to make it more exclusive. This is not new. This has been true for decades, okay? So this isn't some big political thing. This is just how the film industry works, at least here in the States. So my point being, in order to make a film of any kind, shape, or form within the proper Hollywood film industry, you know, a thing that's going to theaters, mainstream film, it's going to be very expensive. And that money generally is going to be coming from studios who are going to fund the bill, and that's going to come down to the people who own the stock and the people who are actually make those decisions, what I usually refer to as the money people. I use that term on purpose because it's actually a lot of different groups of people, but they're the people who make the decisions based on money, okay? So making a film in general is already expensive. Now, if I want to make a Seiken Densetsu 3 movie, I have to go spend more money before I've even started doing anything. So I have to go over there and I have to say, I'd really love to make this ST3 film. And Square Enix says, we write a contract, and two things immediately, in addition to this, always probably absurdity. I'm not sure because I don't know personally, but it sounds related. So I go and we have to write out a contract. Now, there's several things relevant about this whole contract thing. First of all, obviously, I have to pay them money. No matter what happens, I have to pay Square Enix money up front. What happens most of the time, what happens usually, is I also have to give them a form of residuals. In other words, they get a piece of the pie depending on how well the film sells. So, not only am I spending money up front, thank you, Marley, but I am losing money from sales. Then there's a very good chance, and this has happened many times, that the person actually owns the licensing rights, in this case Square Enix, can say, we want you to do this, and we don't want you to do this. Now, that doesn't always happen, but that is something that they have the right to do. They have the right to say, and that's in the contract. Boom. So now I've got to make a film to make, which has more money up front, less money out front, or whatever. And then I may or may not have to meet these certain restrictions as far as creatively speaking. Now you might be like, this is a bad song for this. I mean, I like that song. That works. So you see the problem here already, but the real problem is you might be thinking, well, okay, with all these restrictions, why don't they just really knuckle down and bring in some awesome people and really make a great creative work? Well, because that's not your decision to make. The director may try to do their best job with this film. The writers may try to do their best job with this film. The script doctors may try to do their best job with this film. But the people making the decisions on what this film will be handing down dictates from above, and technically from below, in order to ensure and indeed mandate that this film makes its money back. And that means that this film has to play it safe. They can't afford to really go into this because this is not a film for SD3 fans. This is a film. And that's the attitude that so many, again, money people, studios, not the creative people, but the actual people who make this stuff happen, have that mentality when they make video game films or adaptive films in general. This is here to be a film to make money, and that means we need as broad of an audience as possible. Now, the effect and specifics of how much influence and creative sway they have varies from bit to bit. But I actually have a semi-perfect example for you, and that's the film's Transformers. The Transformers films aren't a video game property, but they had the exact same process I'm talking about. They had to get the licensing from Transformers. They had to meet certain requirements for the first film. They had to pay money up front. The people, I think it's Hasbro, I believe. I'm not actually sure right now, but whoever owns the licensing rights, they had to pay a percentage of that to them. And they had certain severe restrictions. And some of you may remember even some of these. You remember in the first film, one of the things that even Michael Bay was pissed about is that they were being told you can't really show the Transformers all that much. Anyone remember that? In the very first film? They couldn't show the Transformers that much because they were deliberately pulling back on the reins. They weren't sure it was going to work, and it was expensive rendering the Transformers, so they said don't show the Transformers that much. And if you ever rewatch the first film, I don't recommend you do, but if you ever do, you'll notice what I'm talking about. Like, occasionally you see them, but a lot of the actual fight scenes, I mean, there's a fight between Megatron and Optimus Prime, which we see, like, one of their legs every now and again in the background, or a missile going by in the background, as we're down here with Mr. Witwicky on the ground. It's the same problem. Because the people who make the decisions don't care about the creative side of things. All they care about is making sure that that money is a return on investment. Now, that's not even necessarily a bad thing. Not really. What makes it a bad thing is the example I just gave and every other example we were listing earlier, because what you need, in my opinion, when you're doing a truly adaptive film work like this, is to sit down and say, okay, we really would like to make our money back on this. We're already putting money into this. We're already putting all this into this. We need to make our money back. Please, please, please go ahead and do something with it. And you might be like, can you name a film that did that? Yes, I can. Iron Man 1. Now, that's just a off the top of my head example. There are multiple examples of films where they were like, okay, let's do this. And they allowed them to stretch a little. Some of you may not know this. I imagine actually several of you do know this. Iron Man 1 was deliberately going off source material. And there was a big kerfuffle about that when Iron Man 1 was coming out, before it actually came out. Like, they're like, oh my god, we can't we can't go off source material. We can't go stray from the comics, or we have to do this other thing. We have to be in this other specific type of thing. We need to make Tony Stark nice and bland. He needs to be just like Bruce Wayne was in the previous films. And they said no. There was pushback. There were tons of issues behind Iron Man 1, behind the scenes. Huge issues. It's another one of those films that we're pretty lucky to get because it sold like crazy. And that's what makes decisions. So they were allowed more creative freedom going forward, and we got the MCU as a result of that. I talked about that when we were doing the Thor Ragnarok thing. But that's an issue with licensing. Exactly. Funny, isn't it? I mean, have you ever read the Thor comics? Because I have. Probably not Berserk Arrow, because remember, stock owners are basically one of the source problems of this overall ball. Like if you trace it back, most of this goes back to the quarterly return. I've talked about this so many times. The problem with the quarterly return, and the quarterly return is based off of the problems of the stock market and stockholders. So anyways. You know what, Bart Ben Dilemma? That's kind of the point I'm trying to make. But I'm getting off track. This is related to my next point, which is, and I know a lot of you wanted me to talk about this, let's talk about Star Wars and EA. Now, let me just drop the mic here really quick, okay? There is no confirmed information about any interactions between Disney, the license label, and EA. I want to make that very, very clear. I have been researching that daily. I have been looking into that every day. I looked into that this morning. There is still no confirmed information about this, okay? Giant asterisk, rumor, okay? In fact, I'm like 99% certain that the rumor that came around Thursday or Friday is in fact a flat-out lie. I am almost 100% convinced about that. Because to explain what I'm talking about here, there is a rumor that came out Thursday or Friday, I forget when exactly, about how the head of Bob Iger at Disney had called up and I forget his name, the CEO of EA, and said something, and then minutes later they decided to pull the plug on the microtransactions. Now, I want to explain why that's almost guaranteed to be a lie. First and foremost, that's not how companies work. That's not how corporations work. I could explain that, but I think it's actually fairly self-evident to anybody who understands how corporation... Nope, that's not true, Darth Tyrant. The original rumor was about Bob Iger. And then people kind of started misreporting it and change reporting it. Oh, by the way, that's another thing. Every single person who has been trying to, and all the sites and all the people who have been trying to cite this as news, have not actually given any kind of evidence or corroborating truth to it. There's, like, seriously, legitimately, go watch, go read one of those interviews if you feel like it. They're talking about an unidentified source spoke of, or someone close to the source spoke of, or, and this is more common I've noticed, most sites are just linking back to another site, which is linking back to another site, which is the site that says, certain sources say, no cited sources, no concrete information, no corroboration, no nothing. This is probably not true. That specific point is probably not true. I say with almost certainty that this is fake news. Now, let's talk about some truth. Because there are things we can say with total truth. We can say that EA's stock plummeted leading up to this. We can say with 100% truth that EA had to release I forget what it's actually called. There's a specific type of release, like a news packet, basically, that a company will send out to stockholders. And they sent that out. They sent that out to the stockholders at EA. And they said something very specific. They said, and I'm going to quote this as word for word as I can here, because 3% is a big drop in stock. 3% is what you call the pebble that might cause the boulder when it comes to stock market. We'll see what happens next week with regards to EA stock. Anyways, they said that there shall be no material impact on Battlefront 2. That was specifically word for word what it said, okay? Now, I actually want to define this for you guys because this is where we get a little misleading. Material impact, you might be like, actually, you know what? Before I define it, what does material impact mean to you? Of course they are hazardous. It'd be ridiculous if they didn't. It's a specific economic term. That's why I wanted to talk about this. You guys know me. So, Grey Wolf is actually pretty close there. Units. That's pretty close. It is economic jargon. It does have a specific term. Material impact means it is specifically a negative, an adverse effect on the effect of the regulatory status of a work or the specific initial commercial sale of a product. Okay? So what EA said is absolutely true. This pulling the plug on the DLCs thing for now, or excuse me, the microtransaction for now, will have no material impact because it will not increase the regulatory status and it will not change the initial sales of the game. Because that means nothing. It's literally saying nothing to try and placate stockholders. Literally nothing. It's like saying, okay, we're going to stop. Let me just pull jargon out of this for a second. We're going to go ahead and stop selling sprinkles on ice cream cones. But don't worry, this will not affect our sale of any... basically, we're going to pull the sprinkles off ice cream, and we won't be selling ice cream anymore. I mean, I'm failing. I'm failing at explaining this because it's so stupid. They're basically saying something completely unrelated to this. But they're saying it in a placating tone so that stockholders retain investment. They're saying it so that people chill. Because a 3% drop is the kind of thing that scares people. And we'll see what happens with that. The market opens tomorrow and we'll figure out what's going on. But yeah, it's literally saying nothing. This will not impact... It's so goddamn stupid. Yeah, thank you, Zigo. I was actually struggling at trying to explain how meaningless and nonsense this phrase is that they're saying here. Just utter nonsense. Pure PR talk, absolutely unrelated to the topic at hand. Not our topic, it's of course related to our topic, but it tells them nothing. Now, the funny thing is, that probably placates the overwhelming majority of stockholders. Anybody who is actually a stock analyst, or someone who is a major corporation or group which holds a large share of EA, will look at that and say, well, no frickety duh, because they know what those words mean, just like I did. I mean, that's a difficult question, Ryman. DICE is EA in many ways, so I'm not sure how to define that. What does that tell us? You're right, let's get to the point. So, like I said, we're discussing some truths. Let's discuss another rumor. Let's add another asterisk. I wish I had my asterisk thing still up here. Rumor, pekong, okay? There is a rumor, pekong, that Disney is threatening EA with pulling their license from them. I want to really re-stress that word, rumor, because I looked into this one too, and there is nothing confirming and nothing corroborating that. Maybe it's true. It's entirely possible that it's true. But it is not confirmed or corroborated right now. So, let me explain why this is most likely a rumor, okay? Let's say I make an exclusive deal with you in 2013. That's when this happened. And that means you get the exclusive rights to do licensed Star Wars games. Okay, cool. Oh, I'm going to finish with that, Hazardous. Don't worry. I have my own opinion on this, but I want to cover rumors and facts first. So, contracts there's really only two ways to breach a long-term exclusive contract like this. Now, it's worth noting we don't actually know what their contract terms are, and realistically, we never will. 2023, actually. Or wait, no, is it 2020? No, it's 2023. I have it written down right here. The EA license will run out in 2023. So, we don't actually know the specific wording of the contract, and that isn't required to be public. The stockholders don't even know what the terms of that contract are, because that's not required to be public. It's part of a blah, 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 blah. I forget the term for it, but it's a hidden business model kind of a thing. However, there are two ways to get out of such a contract, generally. Way number one is money. You drop money on them and say, here. You basically buy your way out of the contract. Most contracts actually have some kind of clause written into them that specifically says if you want to break the contract, you have to spend this much money to do it. Usually, again, historically speaking, usually, that's however much money would be assumed from revenue on a yearly basis times how many years are left in the contract. So they'd have to drop however much money that is in order to figure that out. That's a lot of money just to buy someone out of a contract. In general, we're talking a very large sum of money. Minimum of millions, probably more. Second probability is lawyers. Oh, and money. Because lawyers are expensive. They could try to pull up their lawyer. Sure, Mandart. I do love this song. You're right. Hey, let's go with... These are all good songs. What do you want from me? Sure. They could bring in the lawyers, and they could try to find some loophole or some thing, and there are ways of doing this. As I've tried to explain before, there's really very few things that are hard contract law. You know, there's very few things when it comes to the civilian sector that are, you can't do this, because there's always some way to finagle or weasel your way around the law. That's actually how the law is designed here in the States. No, really, that is done on purpose. Because the original intent when designing all this crap here in the States was specifically designed to avoid hard writ laws that were so prevalent in the era in which the United States came from. So they would have to bring in the lawyers, and they would have to pay them a fairly large sum of money. We're talking a minimum of 6 digits, probably 7, in order to take them to court for however many years, because civil suits like this usually take a bare minimum of 9 months. And say, all right, we're going to try and legal our way out of this contract. And EA would probably fight it, because of course they would. It would actually be really stupid if EA didn't fight it. That would be a huge sign of weakness, in addition to something that would really negatively impact a lot of aspects of their business. So, those are the two general concepts that Disney could do to buy out of this. Now I'm going to build up to my opinion. Do I think this is going to happen? No. I'm just going to drop the mic. I'm not going to literally do it. It's an expensive mic, but drop the mic, because I don't think Disney is actually going to bother with this. The only way they would do so is if this caused a significant long-term negative demonstrable money impact on Disney or on the Star Wars brand. For those of you not aware, Episode 8 is selling like crazy already. You're absolutely right, King Bubble. King Bubble brings up the third point I was going to bring up. Because the first reason I don't think they're going to do this is I don't think there's a significant reason for them to do so. As much as we're all upset about this, and we are, I am too. You know, we're all upset about this bullcrap that EA is pulling. That doesn't really affect the money people, not really. Not on the scale that would be needed to really impact them sufficiently to require them to drop the money and time, or money and lawyers and time, into getting themselves out of this contract. Very, very unlikely. Second reason, that's... how do I put this? It would be easier to apply... My second reason is it would be easier for Disney to apply political pressure to EA in order to try and ensure that EA does things more in line with what they want. You know, rather than actually handing down a contract, rather than handing down some kind of law, rather than giving them a suit or pulling them into court or whatever, they could just kind of have a few talks and say, listen. I got a fourth reason, but we'll get to that. The third reason, which King Bubble just brought up there, is this would set a horrible precedent for Disney. This would actually be bad for them in a long-term contract perspective, even from a purely money person perspective. This would damage their ability to further interact with other corporations with regards to licensing or contracts for years, if not longer. Final point. I'm trying to think how to phrase this. I know, right, Darth Tyrant? Well, that's true, Hazardous. Trust and favor. They don't have console commands. Actually, Disney technically does have console commands. I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Forgive me. Give me a second. This is good music. Damn it, I'm losing my train of thought. I'm so sorry. There we go. Disney is still profiting from this contract. There we go. I think that's the simplest, easiest way I could put that. And we know this because we've actually seen, you know, we can see stock reports, we can see quarterly reports. Those are public record, right? They might be like, how? EA hasn't made anything, and that's true. What has EA made? Battlefront? That didn't do terribly. It kind of had an issue, but it was just a blip on the radar. Battlefront 2? You know, that's it. They haven't made any Star Wars games. Well, that's not actually true. Star Wars has made 2 mobile games, and a third one is coming out within the next couple of months. And Galactic Heroes is selling very well. I shouldn't say selling, that's an inaccurate term, forgive me. Galactic Heroes is bringing in money. Let's put it that way. And Disney gets a piece of that, because that's how licensing works. Yeah, Tor was actually before the contract. I'm not sure if it's related, it's just there. So, I don't know what else to add to that, really. It is unfortunate, but... Oh, I need to give my last little bit of opinion. I've already said I don't think this is happening. I don't think Disney has taken them to task. But I do want to give... Now, what I'm about to say is pure opinion. I want to make this nice and overt and apparent. This is just my opinion based on all the evidence we do have and all the evidence we don't, okay? I think that this was planned. And you might be like, oh, you always think everything's conspiracy lore. But if you actually think about this, this isn't some big, complicated Illuminati conspiracy. This is the kind of thing that would take a couple people in a meeting room like 5 minutes to come up with. This is the kind of thing that that feels like, yeah, it's a PR stunt. That's exactly what I believe. That is exactly my opinion. I've even explained this to other people, like my stepdad and my sis and my friends, and they've been like, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. The idea being that this is the kind of thing where EA more or less deliberately allows this thing to happen, and then pulls the plug. Rumors instantly start circulating, and then EA releases the game, and you'll notice what's one of the big pieces of news we've had in the last couple of days. Oh, that's right. It's that EA DICE, whatever you want to call it, is going to be releasing additional story content and other content for Battlefront 2 for free. EA gets to look like, oh, okay, we'll reach out to you on this one. And Disney gets to look like the good guys. I want to remind you that Disney is, in general, one of the worst corporations on this planet. Like, I know that there's a lot of bad corporations out there, but Disney is personally responsible for a lot of really messed up crap. And also, my own little piece of evidence for this. They pulled the plug, what? It was like 44 minutes or something? I forget the exact number, but it was not long. They pulled the plug very, very soon prior to Battlefront 2 going live, right? They flipped the switch, right? Here's the thing. Here's the thing. That's not a thing where you can just flip a switch. That's not how that works. Speaking as someone who's worked as a network engineer, speaking as someone who has worked on game design, it's not the kind of thing you just decide at the last minute and then flip the switch. That's the kind of thing that has to go through proper channels. That's the kind of thing that has to go down and have a meeting, and then those people have to go and prep these people, and then actually it's usually up, excuse me, then they have to go prep these people, so I should be doing it in this direction. I guess you don't care which direction I'm doing it. Point being here, I'll do it this way. So they have to have a meeting, discuss this, and they have to have a meeting and discuss this, and it has to go up, and there has to be approval at certain levels. EA DICE, if it went all the way up to EA DICE's top, that's still not enough because EA DICE doesn't get to make this decision. It has to go up even further because EA DICE is not the one actually making this making this decision. They're the ones who implement it. You see where I'm going with this? This is the kind of thing that takes time and effort. This is not the kind of thing you just decide in an afternoon. This is something they were prepped for. This is a decision that was made probably weeks before this happened. Possibly earlier. They were ready to go. They had approval. They had implementation. They knew exactly which code and exactly what switches to hit when, and all they were waiting for was the specific time that had probably been designated, again, weeks before. That is how corporations work, especially massive umbrella corporations like EA. So Kefka, apparently, Easel. So yeah, I think this was a PR stunt. I think this was a specific intention to do something terrible, basically deliberately creating a bad guy, and then all of the developers were... What's the big thing they've been pushing for the last, 3 weeks? They've been pushing this thing over and over and over and over about the idea that the developers don't want this. There's interviews out there. I hate all these microtransactions being in my game, and I hate all this crap. And you know what? They probably actually believe that. But that's the point! You make a nice, big, obvious evil target, but then you have this nice little guy over here who's like, they're on your side. It could even be true. They might literally be on your side. It still works as a manipulative thing, as a way to push the idea that EA are the bad guys, but EA DICE, no, they're cool. They're cool. We should support them. And then this rumor mill, which has been cycling like freaking crazy ever since Thursday, about, Disney called down, or executives from Disney called down, or all that. It's you can't. So, that's my opinion. Now we're going to segue into a semi-related topic here. God, I talked about that for a while. I'm sorry, guys. Who here lives in... You don't have to tell me. I'm sorry, I shouldn't even ask that question. Who here has heard about Belgium and the Netherlands? Consumer trust, Friendoka? Were you here when I talked about the bubble pressing that Bethesda was doing? This is a few weeks ago at this point. Yeah, this is bubble pressing. That's all that EA is doing. And they had a backup plan ready to go in case it didn't work. It didn't work. They implemented the backup plan. No big conspiracy. So Belgium and the Netherlands, and I keep looking into this, but I haven't heard anyone else talking about this. Belgium and the Netherlands are both re-examining the legal definition of gambling to see if they can actually redefine loot boxes or loot crates or gotchas, or just the general concept as legal gambling. Now, I've actually been looking into this. I heard someone say France. I haven't been able to corroborate that. I heard someone say Britain. I haven't been able to corroborate that. So the only two I know for reasonable certainty are Belgium and the Netherlands. That's why I'm only mentioning those two. I know for a fact the States doesn't give a crap. That's already been locked down. That actually was reiterated just last week, that the ESRB here is like, no, it's not gambling. So I've heard all sorts of countries. But again, the only two I can say with reasonable certainty is Belgium and the Netherlands. Now, the idea, for those of you not aware, I'm going to use Germany as an example. Germany is already actually pretty restrictive in terms of its video game regulation. And let me just go ahead and say that I'm actually not a fan of that. I don't want to get into politics here. I just want to go ahead and say that I don't like that. But getting back to the point, they are trying to define this legally as gambling. Now, I just want to make this point that I've actually already talked about this topic. I actually talked about it either last week or the week before when we talked about how the ESRB has decided not to clarify this as gambling, and how I said that was a good thing because I know what that would do to the overall system. And I don't think it would be a good thing. I also happen to be the kind of person who doesn't think that... I think that government regulatory oversight needs to be done with moderation. You know, I case by case. You know me, guys. You know, it's this kind of thing where, okay, this, yeah, but let's not go over that. You know, let's not go over that. That kind of a thing. And I'm not sure what this would do to the EU market, to be completely honest. If the EU as an aggregate decided to go ahead and lock down on this kind of stuff, I'm not 100% sure what the outcome of that would be. Because, generally speaking, there's only really two directions that could go in. Either it will be worse for us, the actual gamers, or it will be better for us, the actual gamers. Now, I know that sounds super generic, but it's true. It is actually very true. Because there's only really two general possibilities here if we get more government regulation in. Either they will start pulling back on this kind of concept, or they will double down on it. They will actually start doing what real casinos are already doing. They will start doing what actual gambling institutions are already doing, what places that are already legally defined as gambling. And they will get more restrictive, and they will get more expensive, and they will get more predatory. And this could cause some serious issues. I mean, do you think it's bad now? Have you walked into a casino lately? Yeah. So, we'll see what they do. And you know what kind of pisses me off? There's actually an old quote that I love. It's one of my favorite quotes in the whole world. It's paraphrased, when elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. Well, we're the grass here. They've already done that, Tesla. I actually talked about that. There's a Star Trek... I call it a slot machine, but it is a video game in Vegas right now. My mom's actually played it now. There are already video games in casinos now. That's actually been true for years at this point. Now, you might be like, well, what do we do about this? This is a complicated topic, legitimately. This is not the kind of thing that we can just sit down and say, well, why don't we just do this? You know, there's no easy answer. There's no simple answer. There's no just, done. That's not how we can deal with the situation. Regulating this as gambling will not solve this problem. And I want to say this really quick. I want to make this 100% clear. If you're in favor of that for your own political views or reasons, that's fine. You know, I'm not here to be judgmental, but I want to make this 100% clear because this is not domain of opinion. It is the domain of fact that this is a complicated problem that needs a complicated solution. That is fact right there. This is not something we can just, we'll just do this. No. Because, and here's something that has been brought up more than once, there are people who have issues. I don't mean like, issues. You know, I mean, there are people who have what I call a fixative mindset. Or people who have legitimate monomania. People who... We usually refer to these people in a kind of aggregate as people who have gambling problems. Well, there's an issue there that's worth talking about. I don't want to get into politics, it's not Halloween, but there's an issue there worth talking about. There are many different type of people who have either problems with addiction, OCD, problems with, like I said, the fixative mindset, people who have compulsive disorders, people who get pulled in. And I want to remind you that, again, I've been into many casinos. Most of my family lives in Vegas. I'll probably even retire to Vegas someday. It's kind of a tradition. Casinos, real-life gambling places, are incredibly predatory. To such an insane extent, it's practically brainwashing. In some cases, it is literally brainwashing. It's actually kind of insane the more you think of it. It's one of those things where you look at this thing and it's like, oh, hey, this is kind of crazy. And then you, like, peel away a layer and it's like, oh, this is even more crazy than I thought. And then you peel away another layer and it's like, oh my god, what are they doing? You know, it just gets worse the more you look into it. The amount of things that they do in order to try and keep you there, in order to try and keep you paying, in order to keep that dopamine high going, to keep that happiness going, to try and reward you for spending money. Why is it you think most casinos give out free drinks? Do you think it's because they want you to have a good experience? This is just like one thing they do. And it's actually really insidious the more you think about it. I think so easily, yeah. Yeah, drink is cheap. Super cheap. They give out loyalty points, they give out loyalty cards, free buffets. That's pennies to them. That's nothing. It's actually almost funny. I talk so much... If I could just segue for just a second here. Yeah, no clocks on the walls. There's all sorts of stuff they do. Seriously, if you ever have time, research it sometime. Casinos are insidious. It's actually really disgusting to me. Like, legitimately disgusts me what casinos do. Actually have hazardous, yes. But if I could segue for just a second. Oh shoot, I've actually already lost my topic, damn it. Crap. I've lost my topic. It was about casinos and gambling. I've lost it. I'm sorry. I'm a little tired, forgive me. Why would I live in Vegas? There's actually a lot of good reasons to live in Vegas. All you need is a little self-control. I know that sounds weird, but it's true. Like, it's true. That's what it takes. Because Vegas is very cheap to live in, it has very good food, and it has generally some of the most advanced tech that is available in the United States. A lot of new stuff is developed there. You know, brand new power plant, brand new energy distribution system, brand new types of air conditioning. You know, a lot of stuff is tested there because tons of money circles through Vegas. So, if you just avoid the strip, if you just avoid the casinos and don't gamble, it's really cheap and even good to live there. Now, the heat is a problem. That is a legitimate problem. But no, it's really cheap to live there, Anthony. It costs about as much to live in Vegas as it does right around where I live, right here, in terms of real estate. And it would be cheaper on taxes. And it's dry heat, so it's easier to tolerate. So, that's your answer, Tesla. And again, I can speak from experience. Most of my family lives there. My great-great-grandmother, Mills, is the one who started that trend. She's the one who settled there, and then... Thank you for your thoughts, Berserk Hero. By total happenstance, we weren't. My great uncle, who actually was going to perform at that venue, by coincidence didn't. So, anyways, but yeah, exactly. The Vegas suburbia. Don't ever live in Vegas proper. Don't ever. Don't even get a hotel in Vegas proper unless it's in a casino. Just don't. Yeah, it was a complicated topic, right? Easy answer. And the predatory practices of the casinos. Actually, one other place I'm looking at is Minnesota, because it's actually relatively cheap to live there, and it's cold, and I like cold. Oh my gosh, I can't remember that time. I'm sorry, guys. My brain is all over the place. Free drinks. I was talking about the free drinks. Come on, I just need to trigger the thought that led me to my segue. Up top, Anthony. I'm actually not a huge fan of cheese. Regulatory state, video games, loot boxes. The Autobahn. StarCraft 2 free to play. No. By the way, we're doing Blizzard Sunday. So anybody who has like limited availability, say something, so we can get you in first, basically. I'm thinking, forgive me. I remember the thought I was having at the time. I was thinking about how they designed the speakers in a very specific way in casinos. It's actually really screwed up because there's basically two general types of speakers on any given machine in Vegas. There's one that's designed to blare only certain sounds, like up and out, so the sound goes up and reflects out, and everyone can hear when someone wins. Then there's the things that are specifically designed to basically form this little cone of sound right in front of you that only the person actually sitting there hears, and that gives them the whole, everything's going great, and the good music, and hey, I can't wait to do this, and blah, 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 blah. That's the specific thought I was having, was the speakers when I was going to segue, and I can't freaking remember what the hell it was now. It doesn't matter, I'm done with my topics for the day. I'll probably remember it later. What do you want to bet? I'll remember it later. Whatever. If I remember it later, I'll write it down. Doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and chop off the local recording. And I'm going to be startled by Kefka. And so for those of you on YouTube,